There are quite a few opinions and, of course, fears about what war can do to markets, particularly, obviously, Bitcoin in our case. I intended to talk about the data and the history yesterday, but of course, ended up having the most epic live stream maybe in the history of all live streams. If you guys missed that, it's definitely worth watching again. 2 hours. Some of the most famous economists and pundits and investors, billionaires, literally ever showed up and discussed. I never really got a chance to dive into it. So I want to do that today, look at a few charts and tell you why this is definitely not the time to panic. Let's go.
Let's go.
What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of All Streets. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel and take your extra camera lens and aggressively drop it on the like button. This is my wider angle lens, but I've got that super zoomy one that shows all 45 of my ears directly in and around my face. How are you guys doing today? How you guys feeling? How you doing? How's it going? We have a pretty small crowd today. That's why I was cutting back, because things have slowed down quite a bit. But I'm always happy to see you guys, the loyalists that are here. Today's going to be rather short. I have to do a podcast in not so long. So, guys, as I mentioned before, Christopher Walker, small crowd today. Yeah. We don't have a very big audience here, but I appreciate the ones who do show up. And it's not like I'm getting paid for how many people show up. Just doing it because I want to do it. Showed up yesterday, unplanned. Today was actually planned. Yesterday was unplanned, but the world went to war, and I felt like we needed to talk about it. Thought it was really funny that everyone was like, Scott's so serious. He's never serious. Like, none of you have ever watched my podcast. I know I make like a lot of like inappropriate jokes on our live streams and I'm humorous, but when it's time to be serious, I can. And I can have serious conversations with people. It's kind of my thing. If you've ever watched podcasts, maybe you guys just show up for these live sessions, don't watch podcasts. What do I know about what you guys are doing with your private time? I like to imagine it sometimes, and I bet it's really fucking weird. I feel like a lot of you guys are pretty do some freaky stuff that I haven't even imagined yet. But guys, let's dive into it. Okay, so listen, I touched on some of this yesterday. But a lot of media fear and hype around the war. First, we have to preface it as this, is that war is not inherently the time to start talking about portfolios and markets, of course, right? There's a human toll. Everybody's considering that. Nobody's being insensitive. The fact is, we all have to continue with our lives. And as I said in the newsletter today, you can be both horrified and shocked by the war, but also concerned about your own portfolio and managing it through that. And those are not mutually exclusive things. You can be concerned about growing your portfolio at the same time as being horrified by what's happening on the other side of the world, and certainly can be concerned about not letting it destroy your portfolio. And I don't think that those two things, while it may seem and sound slightly insensitive to talk about this, I don't think that that's the case, right? So listen, we have quite a long history of armed conflict in the United States and the world because people are huge fucking assholes, right? The fact that we even still talk about war in 2022 is such a horrid indictment on humanity. Seriously, what are we doing here? Killing people over commodities and ideas, veiled threats, and completely made up stories and fake news, right? But that's what humans do. And unfortunately, in the current world, we don't really get the accurate news of what's going on. We never get the real story, and it's impossible to parse what's fact and what is rumor, right? I still literally can't even tell what's happening over there. Get doctored videos, false reports, hard to even figure out. I would argue that when I was a kid in the 80s and like we had the Gulf War, yeah, we only had coverage every night at 6 o'clock for 30, 45 minutes, whatever, because, 24-hour news wasn't a thing people paid attention to. But yeah, very accurate reporting. You knew what was going on, and it was actually probably the truth. Not really the thing now. Not really a thing now. So anyways, tell you this. War is not bad for stocks. And if war is not bad for stocks, and we are seeing increased correlation between Bitcoin and stocks, I've always laughed at the correlation between Bitcoin and stocks because I view correlation on a long-term scale. But you can't argue the fact, as I've said also many times, that when things go risk off, Bitcoin dumps right alongside everything else, including stocks, right? Bitcoin's trading like a risk asset right now, trading more like a stock than like gold or silver. And we'll talk about in a moment. That's probably a good thing for Bitcoiners. Probably a good thing for Bitcoiners. So listen, I went through tons of data research in advance and then just found this article on Investopedia. How the modern stock market is affected by war. I will give you the quick hits. Guys, this is fact. It's not opinion, right? Sorry for bringing facts to the make up whatever shit you want to believe party that everybody on planet Earth seems to be hosting on Facebook, right? But we have facts. Here you go. From the start of World War II in 1939 to the ended in 1945, what happened to the United States stock market? Dow was up 50%, an average of 7% a year. If you combine that with the other worst wars in modern history, the U.S. stock market was up a combined 115%. That's fact. That's fact. Even worse, during the worst world wars, the stock market performed well. Here's what happens, right? We always talk about buy the rumor, sell the news. It's kind of like sell the rumor, buy the news in this case. What happens is you have this anticipation of war, right? In this case, and in most of these cases. And since we live in a 24/7 news cycle, we know the shit's coming, right? And so people panic in advance. Everything sells off. And the minute the war actually hits, and people go, why? What? I was selling stocks because there's a war somewhere that I don't even know if it's going to be more than, a few days or whatever. They start buying everything in sight. They start buying everything in sight. We saw it with Bitcoin yesterday in advance of stocks. And interestingly, we saw the almost exact opposite reaction from gold and silver, which I'll show you. Gold and silver, as stocks and Bitcoin were going down, gold and silver, supposed to be digital gold, Bitcoin not acting like it. Gold and silver were absolutely ripping and got, I don't even know if there's another term for what happened once the war launched, besides saying that they got aggressively and pretty much horribly raped. They got raped. They're raped, right? And so the phenomenon I was describing before, where you have this sort of sell-off into the war, and then a buying has been known as the war puzzle, something that people have talked about in the past for sure. Here are some other reasons that they think that it could be good. Over the last few years, markets have been conditioned not to overreact to political and geopolitical shocks for two reasons. First, the belief that there would be no significant subsequent intensification of the initial shock, right? You got a war now. How can it really get worse? And second, that central banks stood ready and able to repress financial volatility. We will see if that is the case. But here you go, digging in. I know you can't see this chart. I tried to share it yesterday. This is basically how the stock market has reacted to every single armed conflict that we've had since the 1940s, and it just ain't bad. Pearl Harbor had a 20% total drawdown, but we saw what happened the rest of World War II. And Iraq's invasion of Kuwait down 17% because that was a major oil shock, and also the United States got involved directly with that war. And still, stocks went up after that, right? And here you go. Someone pointed out right here. Intuitively, one would expect the uncertainty of the geopolitical environment to spill over into the stock market. However, that was not the case, except during the Gulf War, when volatility was roughly in line with the historical average. You actually see less volatility during these times. So it's fun. It's fun. And that's why we had one of the biggest bounces in stock market history yesterday, why we saw a massive bounce in Bitcoin, why I am actually still long Bitcoin, part of that because it lined up with the chart as well. Here you go. This is a great opinion piece kind of talking about this, although I disagree with his conclusion. Markets are saying Putin will get what he wants. It's the single biggest explanation for an extraordinary turnaround rally in U.S. stocks. By the way, the author of this opinion piece on Bloomberg, his name is John Authors. John Authors has authored this, right? So he starts in the same way that I did, right? War is terrible, shouldn't be talking about our finances, but here we are and we have to, right? But here's basically what he said, the same thing that I was saying. Overnight, as the invasion happened, people wholly predictably bought gold and put in sell orders on stocks. So right as it was starting to come to a climax, we saw gold and silver rip and everything went off. And then absolutely massive reversal. He says, same thing as me here. Sell the rumor, buy the news. These are the reasons he thinks that we might have seen the rally specifically yesterday. Not even talking about the historical precedent for it. But yeah, annoying cliche, but there you go, right? There you go. The geopolitical shock means we don't need to worry about the Fed. This was one of the first things people were talking about. Well, Fed can't really raise rates on us if there's going to be a war, right? Because during the war, we need the Fed to step in and print more money and save our asses. Save our asses. And actually, the way that bonds immediately reacted was as if the Fed had tightened, but that unwound within a day. Unwound within a day. So that narrative is kind of not really playing out. Maybe people thought that intellectually, well, we're safer from the Fed now because there's a war, but the data is not showing that's the case. So, but as a result, we are now pricing in a 0.25 basis point raise in interest rates in March instead of 0.5, which is basically a massively huge, big nothing burger. Everyone knows geopolitical shocks create dips to be bought. Yeah, no shit. When everything goes down irrationally, you buy the good stuff that shouldn't have gone down irrationally. I talk about this all the time. The biggest buying days, a few weeks ago, it was one of my biggest buying days. But my biggest buying day of equities in history before that was the night that Brexit was announced. I remember Netflix went down like 35%. And I was like, rationally, Brexit's not going to happen for years if it happens. Remember, this was just the announcement and markets dumped everywhere in the world. Even if it happens, it'll take years. And what the fuck does Netflix have to do with Brexit? Right? It's one of my favorite trades. The baby that gets thrown out with the bathwater. Right? So everybody knows you get a geopolitical shock. There's this massive overreaction. Markets always react irrationally and overreact. And you buy the good stuff. But here you go. People think Putin has called this right and will get what he wants. Now, I do agree with this. I don't think that the Ukraine can probably defend themselves against this. But I think that all of those other reasons and the historical basis is a much better excuse than people bought stocks yesterday because they think Putin will win. Because rationally, before Putin even invaded, everybody thought Putin would win. Right? So there you go. It looks as if the Russian forces are making their way with relative ease. The war aim seems to be decapitation of the regime and installation of a Russian puppet. We can live with that. Ukraine has been run by Russian puppets before, and the world didn't end. Sad, but true. So then they go into what could end that, basically, right? What could possibly go wrong? So here are the scenarios where we can see a continued rally. I agree with these. Europe comes down to sanctions that really do hurt. You can basically not sanction Russia at this point. Russia has spent a lot of time becoming sanction proof. Central bank digital currency, Bitcoin, legalizing and regulating crypto will be a large part of that. But as you know, Russia owns the most gold of anyone in the world. Probably a really good reason for other countries to short gold and see gold drop. Russia's armed forces get bogged down. This turns into a long, drawn-out conflict. Unlikely. Putin overplays his hand, invades a neighboring NATO member. That would be some dumbass dumbassedness right there. And internal opposition brings down Putin, and Russia lapse into chaos. This guy is going to be president in 3075. Who are we kidding? And the final one is that the U.S. leans on its friends in Saudi Arabia and elsewhere to boost production and tank the oil price. There are interesting theories that happened in 2014 after the annexation of Crimea and blah, 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 blah. All right. Bottom line. Bottom line. If you were a betting man, and we all are, or a betting woman, we all are on markets, historical precedents, and rational thinking about how this ends, whether you agree with how it ends or are happy about it, is that we had an absolutely massive irrational sell-off and things should continue to bounce. We will see. Let's look at the charts. Here's your SPY. This is the Spider S&P 500 ETF Trust. This is the instrument that I personally use to trade the stock market. You can't trade the SPX, right? You trade SPY, which is the ETF. This is what the asset I've been dollar cost averaging into since 2006 for my retirement portfolio and such. Yesterday opened down 410. And this is important, right? Bitcoin trades 24/7. You can dump that shit anytime you want. Imagine if we lived in a world where stock traders and Forex traders, the average ones, not the institutions, could actually react to news in real time. When you get a war on Saturday morning, not in this case, but what if you got a war Saturday morning at 4:00? You have to wait more than 48 hours, like 50 something hours, to be able to sell your stock, right? There's a reason Bitcoin is extremely liquid. Liquid things in these situations risk off the fastest and sell off the fastest and hardest because it's the only thing you can sell. If you're panicked and you're heavily in stocks and you have some Bitcoin, you sell your Bitcoin because you're panicking and you're dumb. Not saying that's how people should do it. That's how people do it. So, of course, the market gapped down all the way to 410. Right when it happened, I was saying yesterday, we're going to fill that gap. We're going to at least come back to 420. But look at this candle. Morobozu candle, basically. That means no wicks, top and bottom. Opens at the lows, closes at the highs. It's basically the most bullish candle you can get, right? Oversold with massive bullish divergence, right? Everything when this opened was screaming monster reversal, buy shit. I bought Bitcoin. And in a risk-off environment, when everyone overreacts, take a look at March 2020. What happened? Bitcoin got crushed 10 days before the stock market bottomed. And then everyone talks about the miraculous recovery of the stock market. Up, it doubled, guys. It doubled from the bottom. Bitcoin went up 17 times from a low of 3,800 to about 69K. Right? So what do you want to buy when shit goes really bad and irrationally dumps? The thing that has the most upside, and that is going to likely be Bitcoin and crypto. Let's take a look at silver. Listen, I posted this in the newsletter yesterday. Look, we flipped the 200 MA. Ooh, right? The 200 MA right here, resistance, finally flipped. It was up here. I said we need to break the EQ. I didn't say buy silver, for the record. So you want to close above that. But I didn't imagine it coming all the way back down to the 200 and dumping. But this is exactly what you saw. People bought the hell out of silver saying there was about to be a war. And the minute it happened, they went, oh, that was dumb. And they sold all that silver and the day closed low and now is dumping. Look at gold. Peter Schiff was jerking it with Jergens with 5 bottles of champagne popping on his head, talking shit about Bitcoin when gold was up here. And then, premature ejaculation. All right. This is the chart version of premature ejaculation, right? One pump to victory, back down.
Oh, no. We suck again.
Right. I still think buying gold's not the worst idea. Maybe down here, 1865, get back to the EQ of this range. If shit gets worse, gold will do fine. It's a nice hedge. I'm not saying it goes up. I'm saying if you think there's a 5% chance that shit might go bad, maybe put 5% of your portfolio in gold. Yeah. Not that hard. Yeah, Peter, man, he had a rough day yesterday. Got kicked in the Peter by global markets. But that's the gist, guys. That's the gist. I do not believe that the war should matter much more for markets. I think we've seen the trade on the war. And listen, I'm not saying they go up or down. We still have inflation concerns to deal with. We still have the Fed. We still have everything else that happens in the world. But the war now can be pushed aside, in my humble opinion. For markets, not for human beings. It's incredibly sad and it's really fucked up. Let's talk a bit about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's implied volatility suggests recovery set to continue. Short-term implied volatility exceeding long-term implied volatility indicates a likelihood of market reversal. We can go deep into the data. It doesn't really matter. This is one metric. But basically, all of the recent bottoms, including 33K not long ago, were right after this indicator. Right after short-term implied volatility exceeded long-term implied volatility. You can see it on the charts. We go through it, but that's the gist. No need wasting time on it. It's a great bottom signal. It's a great bottom signal that will likely see continuation if that's something that could interest you. Maybe Bitcoin going up some more. Barnaby is dead with Peter's ejaculation. I mean, I don't like the guy, but I didn't know that his ejaculation could actually kill. I had my like suspicions that he could kill you with that. Powerful. Short positions see 143 million in liquidations as Bitcoin Ether gain 10%. It's not really that much, to be quite honest. On the huge moves down, we've seen long liquidations up to $1 billion in a day. A Billy with a B. This is a fraction of that. But yeah, at that bottom yesterday, the one that I longed once again. Thank you. At that bottom, people were net short. Funding rate was negative. People were shorting. That's how it went down. So now we have basically neutral funding. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Now, this story right here, Christopher says big crowd. Bro, we don't consider it big unless it's 1,000. Less than 1,000. I'm just kidding. I'm not really concerned about the metrics, but we used to do like 1,500 to 2,000 a day here, guys. And then bear market, crypto banter. They're awesome. They're crushing over there. Doesn't matter. I'm here to talk to whoever wants to hear it. There was no ejaculation in the newsletter. And most people don't really want to hear Peter Schiff jack off jokes. To be quite honest. They don't. I speak to a unique and maybe very specific audience. Anywho. So yeah, this is crazy. And this is what we need to talk about. Because I just happened to pull this article up right now, so I literally have to talk about it. I mean, it's right here. Tether's USDT stablecoin well over $1 on Ukrainian crypto exchange. Tether, which is supposed to represent a $1 value as a dollar-linked stablecoin, is trading above its peg on the Ukrainian exchange amid tensions, trading at about $1.10. Trading at about $1.10. Why? Because everybody in the world right now who's anywhere remotely near conflict is looking at Canada and Russia and Ukraine and going, shit, my money in the bank might suck and it might not be mine. If Canada freezing bank accounts of people who literally just like tweet shit doesn't scare you about what could happen anywhere in the world, then I have maybe an apartment to sell you on the moon. But it's nice. It's a nice apartment. It's a nice apartment. But your money's not really that safe in the bank. Jesse Powell from Kraken, CEO of a centralized exchange, went so far as to say your coins are not safe on a centralized exchange because if the government comes calling, they're going to take that shit too and get a get yourself custodian on. Start custodying yourself. You know? And so Ukrainians don't know what's going to happen with their banks, right? Those will be nationalized by the Russians. They're fearful of using their currency or any other currency. They're not rushing into Bitcoin. They're actually buying Tether at a premium because in times of war and conflict, I know you guys don't want to hear it, Bitcoiners and all. People want dollars everywhere, all around the world. I've talked about this so many times. But as much as we love Bitcoin, I believe it's a better inflation hedge. If you're an average person somewhere in the world who's unbanked or underbanked or in a conflict, you don't have access to the world's global reserve currency, and that is the dollar. And buying stable coins when you can't get actual dollars in your country is maybe the biggest innovation in crypto. Maybe the biggest innovation in crypto, because you can now get dollars. And they're so willing to do it that they're paying a premium. And there's actually a major supply shock here. The majority of people have nothing else to choose apart from crypto. We're talking about millions of dollars of cash that wants to go into crypto, but we can't find people who are willing to do the opposite. Sell it. Very limited supply of USDT in the Ukraine, and people are willing to pay. It's still pegged everywhere else, but people are willing to pay $1.10. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about how important crypto is, and then take the next step, how important Bitcoin is, I have a second apartment, and it's on the moon. It's right next to the other apartment, and it's really nice. Just the view is a little bit blocked of the crater. Yeah. So that's what's happening, guys. People are rushing into stable coins because they want dollars. And whether we want to admit it or not, whether you think that the dollar is trash, fiat, whatever, dollar is trash, the reality is people still want dollars other places in the world, and not everybody is this far down our rabbit hole. And there you go. Tommy said FTX gave them all $25. Sam Bankman-Fried sent $25 to every user in the Ukraine on their exchange. What a legend. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Here we are, guys. I mean, I couldn't have, I feel like I've been annoying about 39,600 for like, I don't know, man, since New Year's. Yeah, January 10th or so. Just screaming about it. Here we are. Sunday, the weekly candle opened, found the resistance at 39.6. Yesterday's daily candle, resistance at 39.6. Today's daily candle, resistance at 39.6. That was this major swing low here, and exactly where bullish market structure broke on this candle. This made a lower low. 39.6 right now. Here's the daily. That candle broke it. That candle tested immediately. Almost tested. That's where we cannot get over on the daily right now. That, for me, is the signal that we are about to furiously bust Pondy market. Pondy market. I think it's going to break. I think that volume yesterday, same as the volume when we bottomed at 33. And let's think about this rationally. Okay. Look, see the volume. Massive volume on when we went from 54 to 42 in a day on December 4th when I was partying in Miami with all the like crypto dudes that didn't have phone service. I told you about that. Market was absolutely dumping and nobody had phone service and was in a full panic. And I was like listening to Diplo, and Emmy was like, what do we do? And I was like, we fucking get another tequila. We're chilling. I don't give a shit about that. But guys, look, had all this buying volume here down to 32,950. Same amount of volume, only down to 34.3. Higher low with more demand at a higher price with the same volume. Get some of that. Get some of that. Right? Maybe even higher volume. Basically the same volume as the last low, but at a higher price, meaning demand has now lifted. The floor is higher. People are buying. What's the case against Bitcoin right now? Is it just the Fed? Because inflation being bad is supposed to be good for us. Anyways, look at the 4 hour. I drew this. This is the kind of the range we've been in here from these lows to this high. You can see, right? That's 39.6 basically right there. And then we topped, this should be, let me see. Yeah, top. Then we got the EQ right there about 39. I'm going to make this, whatever. Bottom line, same area of massive monster resistance. That's where I want that. 39.3. That's bigly, hugely resistance. Look, every one of these candles been rejected on the 4 hours since the major breakdown here from 40K. We have not closed a 4 hour candle above this line right here, 39,300. So we got that area from 39.3 to 39.6. And of course, we still have the greatest indicator of all time. Yesterday, oversold bullish divergence. I longed it again. I told you guys I was doing it. I did it in real time. I am your customer service agent of trades. If I don't update it in real time, then people tell me I'm a LARP and I'm a faker and that I don't trade. And they can all eat a dick. But Now we're looking to invalidate hidden bearish divergence by getting higher here than 39,397. A lot of resistance here. That's the 4-hour, 6-hour looking pretty good to invalidate hidden bearish divergence. 12-hour bull div needs to close up here to invalidate that hidden bearish divergence. Things are just looking great. Things look good, man. I want to hear it. I want to hear it. My hair is it's just being hair, Jay. But I appreciate that, man. I feel like we got a little, we're like cool enough that you can talk about man hair without being weird. On to the next one. Pussy Riot founder Trippy Labs, Pleaser DAO members launched Ukraine DAO. First, I'm going to go on a limb and say this is a very serious story. It's amazing that they're doing this. But like these 3 names in a row, it takes everything that I have not to make jokes. Trippy Labs or Pleaser with the pussy and the riot. Pussy Riot in itself, if they hadn't been like put in jail and Putin, all that. I mean, it's Pussy Riot. Pussy Riot. Right? But like you got a pussy pleaser who's tripping here at a riot. These jokes, right? I mean, these jokes would write themselves. But anyways, I don't really, honestly, man, it's hard to make jokes about these things. But yeah, our goal is to raise funds to donate to Ukrainian civilian organizations who help those suffering from the war that Putin started in Ukraine. Pussy Riot tweeted. We'll be buying an NFT of the Ukrainian flag. There's a lot happening right now to raise money in the Ukraine from the crypto community. Ukrainian military group receives hundreds of thousands in BTC donations. Bitcoin donations to pro-military Ukrainian group Come Back Alive. Man, what a name. A Ukrainian non-governmental organization, that's an NGO, based in I don't even know. Yeah. Based in Ukraine that distributes supplies to soldiers have surged in the past day. The address currently has over $4 million after someone donated $3 million in Bitcoin. Right? And you've seen it even in Canada. You send Bitcoin in Canada and they just don't let you donate that shit either. And then they flag your custodial wallet. You know, they flag it and they just take your Bitcoin away and they put you on the work camp list that Trudeau is going to be running over there. It's Trudeau. It's Trudeau what they say about him. But guys, yeah, I did not look deeply into this, but if you just make sure if you're going to donate money that you do it at the right place. Here's the address, actually. It's in this article. This is on the block. So you guys can look that up if you want to make a donation. I might do that after this. Canada is wild, man. Canada's wild. And the final story here, unrelated, but Bitmex founders plead guilty to Bank Secrecy Act violations. Arthur Hayes and Benjamin Dalo, founders of crypto exchange Bitmex, have pleaded guilty to violating the United States Bank Secrecy Act. Basically, they didn't KYC AML their customers. They pretended to kick out Americans in 2015. And it's very clear that they knowingly allowed Americans without KYCing to trade with leverage on their exchange. Even had examples of like letting specific influencers trade there because they were American and important in the Bitcoin world. Each of these guys paying a $10 million criminal penalty, avoiding jail. I was in the same time I was in Miami when Bitcoin crashed. I was sitting with a bunch of people I was at a dinner for Micah Johnson's Aku project. And I was sitting with all the people from Andreessen Horowitz, the VC, and like Meltem Demirers, a whole bunch of us were having dinner. And my friend Sahil Bloom, you guys know Sahil, he was like, I bumped into Arthur Hayes. I thought that dude was in jail. And then the girl next to me, she was like, yeah, well, he's like one of my best friends. And no, he's like at the club right now. Like, let's go. He's partying in Miami. So I think while everyone thought these guys were in jail, they had turned themselves in and there was never a thing. They never went to jail and actually just had to pay a penalty. The guy's a billionaire. He paid $10 million in a penalty and back to his life. Yeah. So what happens if you trade an exchange with no KYC? I am not a lawyer, but I've had these conversations at length. Seemingly the onus is on the exchange, not the customer, right? Like an American can buy whatever they want. They can trade wherever they want in theory. Now, I don't know if you're allowed to like lie to do it, but say you just like are anonymous and sign on to it. I don't know that that's illegal. Like Americans can buy assets and coins that are not available on American exchanges. You can invest in things. It's up to that company to not allow you to invest. They're the ones who would be in violation of the Security Act. That's my understanding. That's my understanding. Right. So, guys, that's it for today. Like I said, I want to talk to you guys about this, right? I think you're all amazing, but I feel like I felt that things here are getting a little stale. And so we're going to cut back and try to improve on the content. I think yesterday was a pretty glaring example of what we can do when we try, what we can do when we try. So we're planning to have more guests, more specialized content with more direct education and more direct topics. Like, this is what we're going to do today. This is who we're going to talk to about it. And we're going to roll like that and probably still have a whole lot of surprise guests. Maybe like every Thursday, I'll just have a free for all and you guys won't know who's going to show up. That would be cool, like yesterday. Because, guys, if you didn't notice, like we know some like pretty smart people, and I'm in a position, I think, maybe not comparable to other YouTubers. I don't know. I'm in a position, I think, where we can get, because I have the podcast and I'm a bit older, where we can probably avoid sort of the same influencers and pundits talking on our channel, which are all great. I'm one of them probably, but get some really serious voices to discuss topics in the moment that are important to you guys with a hell of a lot more perspective than I can offer. So it would be really nice for us to build on that. And so, guys, I think look forward to that. We're going to be it'll be a bit less, but I think it's going to be a lot better. I hope all of you have a great weekend. I hope that Bitcoin smashes through 39,600, and then we start talking about like 42. Sly over here said, when Craig Wright? You guys know my Craig Wright face. Guys, I have to go get on someone else's podcast in approximately 4 minutes. Chartapalooza will still be intact on Wednesdays. For sure. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Don't give a shiff about the market. Peace.
Let's go.